Hey, it's a great Bob Ross, and I have two reviews today for theatrical movies. Yay, finally. Um, First is going to be Alice in Wonderland. Yeah, I saw this a couple weeks ago when it first came out, and it's been king of the mountain since it came out. It's already made well over $200 million. It's absolutely ridiculous, especially for a movie that's really not very good at all. I'm going to get straight into it. It's just dull. I mean, for a movie that has such overblown visual effects, I just wasn't engaged with any of the characters. And especially not the big attraction, which was Johnny Depp's Mad Hatter. I felt really unimpressed by Johnny Depp in the movie. And generally the whole movie was Burton's usual children's movie fault, which is not having enough darkness to match with his weirdness in his visuals. Because his weirdness usually works whenever he's got the right amount of darkness or violence in it, but when it's just a kid's movie that he takes the darkness and violence out of, his quirkiness overwhelms the movie, and it ends up just feeling stupid. And that's exactly what happens with this movie. The performances are okay, but it's just too bleh for me to really recommend to anybody to go see it in the theaters. I would barely even recommend it for theater, for home viewing. I mean, it's just not very good. It's not a terrible movie. I mean, I did like the actress that plays Alice. I can't pronounce her name. I'm not even going to try. Pretty much the visuals are overdone. Everything's pretty much overdone. Everything's either way too obvious or pretty much everything is way too obvious. The moral's way too obvious. The visuals are just in your face, and not in a good way. I think subtlety could have done this movie well. Overall, I can only give it 2 stars, simply because it's not a terribly boring movie. It's just too dull and too overdone and just doesn't balance out well, and none of the characters are very interesting. The next movie I got to see an advanced showing of. That is Hot Tub Time Machine. Now, it was free, and I had to wait in line for like 2 hours to get to see it because there had been a bunch of press around in my town about the free showing, and we pretty much had to get there at like 6 o'clock, and the movie started at like 8 o'clock, so it took a while to get in. When I got in, I was pleasantly surprised. I think I may like this movie more than The Hangover, which I think it's an apt movie to compare to because they both involve a bunch of guys well in over their head and trying to overcome the odds pretty much, and they play off of each other just as well as the people in The Hangover did. Rob Corddry, Clark Duke, Craig Robinson, John Cusack, they all do a great job, especially Clark Duke. He was in Sex Drive, which he was only okay in. The movie was only okay. He's much better in this one. The way that he interacts with Rob Corddry's character is hilarious. I don't know how much of this movie is ad-lib or if any of it's ad-lib, but it's really smart, witty comebacks. They're crude, they're gross. The whole movie's crude and gross, but it works for this type of comedy. It's a sex comedy, it's sort of college comedy, and then it's got the best part. It's a very self-aware, ridiculous science fiction twist on it. I love it. It's not an amazing movie, but it's a really, really good comedy. It doesn't really have any obvious faults other than the fact that it's really just being a stupid comedy, and it's not really going for anything really in-depth. I mean, it does get a little too crude and starts bordering on sort of the Step Brothers level of stupidity without reason, but it mostly pulls it back. And for being the laugh riot that it is and being as effective as it is, for its type of movie, I have to give it 3.5 stars. I know that sounds pretty high, but I really was just laughing the whole time. It was just a great, fun movie.